everybody. How's it going today? Welcome back to, I think this is my third Ask Dr. Abby YouTube live. And right now I'm answering questions that people send in uh, live. So you can be here joining me, or you can watch the replays on my channel. And if you are a subscriber, you can actually open the chat to the public today. So we'll see who shows up and what's happening. But today, the question is a good one. So recently on my podcast, hopefully everybody listens to my podcast. It's called Relationships Made Easy. We're about to enter the 6th season. So there's a lot of episodes. I did something on toxic partners, what to do if you have a toxic ex partner. Sorry, if you have a toxic ex. And someone wrote in and asked about something related to that, but really that relates to something else that is the topic for today, that really comes back to what to do when you have a partner who avoids certain kinds of conversations. So, but let me lay out the question and we'll sort of take it from there. And yay, Shannon's here, and good to see you. So the question is, and Shannon might recognize this, I'm in a devoted relationship with my partner, who's been divorced for 5 years. And his ex-wife has never moved on. She talks negatively about him to their children. And this is something, by the way, I see a lot. I get these sorts of questions in a lot. She's extremely divisive. And, even though this person's never met, she seems to hate her. So physically, this person who wrote in, her partner and his ex, they live in different states, but they do, and they only communicate through their lawyers. So, and he loves his children very much, but she tries everything to keep them apart. Again, a very toxic ex. She somehow manages to create chaos. So, but the real question is this, and so yeah, you can go listen to the episode I did on how to deal with toxic ex, but there's more here. It's really important. And so we both embrace the partnership philosophy, but my loving husband wants to protect me from the drama and ugliness his ex-wife creates in our life. This I see a lot, where one partner is trying to protect another partner, and so kind of shutting them out. And so he has a tendency to shut down and deal with this on his own. I'm extremely sensitive and wear my heart on my sleeve. The last thing I want to do is cause anyone pain. I hate to see the strain it causes in him, and he hates the fact that I feel bad about not being able to comfort him. This is a great question, because regardless of the toxic ex, it's really about when we're in a relationship and our partner has a hard time either seeing us in pain. They have a hard time being the one maybe that they feel is causing the pain in some way. It's really or they themselves just don't want to talk about this thing because they're not sure how to deal with it. A lot of times people avoid a conversation because they don't have a good answer to it. So something like this with a toxic ex, it's like, what's the solution? You're already doing all the things, right? You already have lawyers you're dealing with. You already have, court orders in place. You already have the things, yet this person is still causing problems. And you've already, so then what, right? So what happens is, in this case, a husband can feel like, well, I don't even want to bring this up anymore in my relationship. I just have to deal with this, and I have to protect my family from this other person. I just spoke to a client, earlier in the Monday, it must have been, who was mentioning that her husband has a boss who's really toxic. And the husband just does not talk about work at home anymore. And it's the same kind of thing. He's trying to protect, his family from this toxic work environment that he's in. So even though he is struggling at work, he is feeling beaten up. And of course, that energy is being brought into the house. Even though all that's happening, he is not talking to his wife about it. So this is what happens when you have a partner who's avoidant in some way. for whatever the reason is. I see it a lot also with in-laws. Someone has, a mom. I can think of a client right now. This woman has a mother who doesn't like her husband. It's her fiance. She doesn't like her fiance, and she's always trying to protect her partner from her fiance from the mom. And I will tell you, it's really funny. I sort of do this with my Gary because my family, I say with so much love because I love my family so much, but they're crazy. And I often, in my way, try to kind of keep him separate from them. It's like a worlds collide thing. And in the same way, and if I'm dealing with family struggles, I don't always share it with him because I feel like I don't even want to bother him with this. So I think a lot of us do this in a lot of different ways where we are either trying to protect ourselves from all the pain this stuff is causing, or we're trying to protect our partner. But either way, it ends up in us being conflict avoidant in some way or our partners being conflict avoidant in some way. And I want to be, or shutting down, they just shut down. They don't want to talk about it. And I want to be clear about one thing. It's so important. It's that conflict avoidance is a form of codependency. And I'm going to say that again because people miss this a lot. Conflict avoidance, shutting down, withdrawing, whatever that all is, that's really shutting down and withdrawing is always conflict avoidance, always 100% of the time. And it's 100% of the time a form of codependency. And so you might be thinking right now, how is that codependent? Well, it is, because when we think of codependency, it's that we are worried either too much about what other people are feeling, or we're worried. Thank you for the mind blown emoji. We're worried about too much what other people are feeling or what they're thinking or what they might say, and we all learn different ways of coping with stress. Let me just say that first. We all learn, growing up, we're blaming our parents again, but it's the truth. We're not blaming them. We're explaining. The families we grew up in, we learn rules. Okay. We learn rules of engagement. We learn if we should care, if we shouldn't care. And you could have a parent who themselves was very codependent. And so they kind of give that to you, this idea that you're responsible for everything, that you're responsible for other people's feelings. You could have had a parent that wasn't like my mom, rest in peace. And I made a lot of peace with her before she died, but she was a narcissist, like a real one, not like I throw the word around. So she would say things to me when I felt a feeling or I expressed a feeling that I was wrong, I was bad. My favorite, I was being mean. Anytime I had a boundary, I was mean. That was till the day she died. And so we can think that sometimes, that I'm being mean if I have a boundary, like if I say how I feel, because other people, right, are owning your feelings in some way. So the person who wrote in, her husband is owning this person's feelings. They're owning, let's call her my client for the moment, right? They're owning my client. You're my client right now. If I'm answering your question on here, they're owning this person's feelings. That's codependency. They're thinking, I'm trying to shield them from a feeling. Number one, think of that. What does that even mean? You can't shield people from feelings. And why would we want to? Why are feelings bad? Why are they dangerous? Why are they so scary? That is really what you want to ask yourself. And that's how this gets into codependent territory, where we grew up in some way feeling like, oh, Michelle's here. Hi. Feeling like somehow what we feel is scary. And I grew up not even knowing what feelings were. Like, that's how far that was from our language in our home. Like how far that was from being able to really talk about anything real. So there was either, screaming, or not from my parents, I was more my siblings, but there was either that, like fighting, that kind of thing, or there was complete stonewalling, quiet, everything's fine, everything's fine. Everything was always perfect and fine. That's really mostly how we presented. And depending on the kind of family you grew up in, I always say they're crazy. They're either crazy quiet or crazy loud, usually, are the families we grow up in. I know a few of you grew up in secure homes, God bless you, but not all of us. So if you start to think about treating, if your partner is conflict avoidant in some way, and you start to really think about treating that as codependency, that's how you get better at this, because codependency always calls for having better boundaries and being very direct with communication, very direct. And of course, always, always very loving with how we communicate with people. So I would say this. So when it's time for these conversations and you're with a partner who's conflict avoidant, I would say your first things first is to prepare with intention. Prepare for the conversation. So in this case, if this person has to talk to their partner about this sort of toxic ex-wife, it would be to say, hey, instead, our usual is to kind of approach our partners and go, hey, how you doing? And they're like, I'm fine. Like, well, you don't seem fine. And they go, well, I am, or whatever. It just, I don't want to talk about it. And that's not what we're doing here, right? That conversation you can have a million times. That doesn't really go anywhere. Instead, what I want you to do is start and say, set your intention. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. And I want to say first that I love you so much. And my goal always is to be closer to you. And there's this thing that I don't feel close to you. And I want to solve that. I want us to solve that. Do you see already we're shifting the conversation? We're almost using someone's codependency like against them. we're ninjaing. We're using the codependency kind of the other way, where we're saying to them, I need you to, now hear me because my feelings are out and I know you care about my feelings, right? Because they do. And they care about their own feelings too sometimes, but either way. So, and I want to have this conversation and and just set it up. Don't set it up as it's going to be a battle and it's going to be hard. And I know you're going to hate what I'm going to say. Don't say any of that. That is setting up a bad conversation. Instead, just say, and, it's something I really want to talk about to be closer to you. And, we get through so much together. To me, this is something we're going to get through. This is something, that we can do. And then you can say, I know that things are happening with your ex-wife and that, you're trying to protect me from what's happening. But I need you to hear that the opposite is happening. I feel closed out of your life. I feel disconnected from you. And we're partners. So there are no you problems. Your ex-wife is not a you problem. It's an us. And I don't even want to consider her a problem because we kick problems ass. So I want to think of it as this is just a part of our lives together, and we need to address it always. So that means that I do need to hear your thoughts and dreams and fears and whatever else about this. And we can set up parameters for how that looks, how much we talk, and we can problem solve together. If someone's ex, let's say in this case, is still bothering them and they're divorced, and they're not together, and clearly this man's now in love with this person, it's really, if they're still bothered, then there's something wrong. Then they're not handling it well. Then they're not getting to where they need to get with this person. They're allowing themselves to be triggered by this ex, by this person, or whatever that is. I know I get triggered by my family, and that's one of the reasons I like to keep maybe Gary out of that sometimes. Even my own children, I try to protect sometimes in different ways. So that's not me being healthy. That's not you being healthy when we do that. How do we, and I'm not, now, obviously, if you have an abusive relationship, that's a little different to me. But in these sort of scenarios, how do we get to a place where we can stop owning other people's behavior? How do we get to a place where we can feel in charge of our own feelings and like we're driving our own bus? And so that's the conversation to have with your partner. Like, if this is still bothering you so much, how do we solve that? What can we work on? Maybe you need to have more time off of work and we can talk about me working more. This is extreme. Maybe you need to take a yoga class. I don't know, like brainstorm together. What else could help in the bandwidth department? What else could help with this? Maybe getting some actual codependency training, maybe listening to one of my podcast episodes on that. Whatever that is, those are the things I want you to start talking about. Again, from a we perspective, from we solve everything, we kick ass, like we're not afraid of having any conversation together because we're together. We're a team. We're partners. So how do we partner in this? And what, in my experience, my 40 years of doing this and having many different clients from many different walks of life, I will tell you these conversations go well. So when you start the conversation, when you prepare it, and by the way, also don't have this conversation with kids in the room. Don't have it like over, as you're cooking and they're doing something else. Don't like get the attention of the person. Don't have this conversation at 10 o'clock at night when everyone's exhausted. Really think about preparing for these kind of conversations again, and that you're in a place not of frustration, not of impatience, but of love. When you've got yourself aligned and you're feeling good, and you then have a conversation with someone, people pick up on that energy every single time. When you're relaxed about a conversation, they will be relaxed too. That's how that happens. The problem is, of course, well, oh my gosh, my partner's a conflict avoider. They don't want to talk about things. They isolate, they shut down. Oh, how am I going to get them not to? When we start doing that, that's where the tension is. That's where the hook is, the bite. And that's where we get into trouble, because I know for me, when someone's coming at me trying to get me to do something, I'm not doing it. Okay. Because I can be an asshole like anyone else. No, because I'm a control freak too. I don't want to feel manipulated. And that's what it is. I say with love. I know it's not out of a bad place, but it's still manipulation to try to get someone to think a certain way or to do what you want. Instead, we have to invite people. I always say, right, we have to connect to correct. So you got to connect first. You have to have that first conversation where you're showing that we're a team. We love each other. We do things. We get through stuff together. Everything is figure outable as long as we do a we. As long as we have that idea. And by the way, this would work if it was your mom or anyone else. It really does. It works to have that sort of we thing, and to set it up that you're at ease, that you're just like, we're just gonna have to figure this out. I don't know. I can't keep going on this way. So we're gonna have to figure it out. That's what's beautiful about it. I will say the next thing to think about is, let me say this well. The next thing to think about is how to, when you get to the problem solving then stage of whatever it is that they're avoiding, okay? Like, so dealing with a toxic ex, or they don't want to talk to you about their feelings, whatever that is, you want to stick to questions and not jump in. Even though I've been kind of problem solving a little with my language, that's not where you want to go directly, okay? You want to next go to problem solving language, which are always questions. What do I say all the time? Don't sack your relationship, SAC. Don't offer suggestions, give advice, or criticize. So what's next is to ask these questions. Tell me how you feel about whatever. And I like to use a scale of 1 to 6 a lot, because that helps a lot. When a lot of times you ask someone how they're feeling and you don't know feelings, you don't know how to answer. You're like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel okay. I feel fine. I feel that gives people an opportunity to say, I feel fine. So instead, if you said, on a scale, in this instance with a toxic ex-wife, on a scale of 1 to 6, how much does your ex-wife, whoever her name is, the ex-wife, how much time do you spend thinking about her? 6 is like all the time, she's always in your head. You're always worried about it and your kids. And 1 is you never think about her. That would give you a great place to start in this conversation. And so again, whatever the thing is that's getting avoided, you can use this. Then you can ask on a scale of 1 to 6, because those are thoughts. Those are a little easier for people. And then you can ask on a scale of 1 to 6, how anxious are you when you're thinking about your ex-wife in this case? How anxious are you? 6, you're super anxious all the time. 1, you really aren't anxious. It's really not a big deal. You can start to get a handle on what's really going on, not what you guess is going on, but what's really going on. And more importantly, so will the person. That's the thing to remember. When we have these kind of conversations, the other person can have some aha moments. What we tend to do is calm, not comfort. And this is really important. You don't want to calm people. You want to comfort people. And we calm people when we say things like, it's going to be okay. It really doesn't bother me. It's all right. It's going to work out. Don't worry. When we say that, it's dismissive because in this case, right, this husband's trying to protect his family from this toxic ex-wife. It isn't okay to him. It's not going to be okay. She's it's been years and she's still making his life miserable. What are you talking about? So first of all, it feels like a lie when you say that. And second of all, that's not the answer. It's dismissive and it's not from a dismissive place. I know that you love this person, you're just trying to reassure them, but it's too soon for that kind of reassurance. Instead, you want to think of comforting them. And how do you feel comforted by? Think of yourself right now. How do you feel comforted by someone else? How do you feel comforted? Think of it. Write it in the chat if you can think of it. When you're in a dialogue with someone and you feel like, wow, I feel so comforted by them. Think about when I talk to you and if there's any time that you feel comforted. What is really happening there? What are you feeling? What is going on? What's and I will tell you that, and feel free again, leave a comment. How do you feel comforted? And you will notice that it's in connection that we feel comforted. It's either that I said something that you like, yes, that's me, and you feel that connection. It's when someone says something that lets us know they see us, they really see us. That it's when we know someone has our back, when we know someone is there for us. When Shannon says, when I feel heard, do you see that? So when we tell someone it's okay, don't worry, when we do that, calming them down, or sometimes people say that, just calm down. Ooh, that's like the worst thing to say. I know you don't say that because if you're listening here, you don't say stuff like that. But I say with love, you might. Instead, when we comfort them, it lets them know we're on the same team. I'm here with you for as long as it takes. I'm not going anywhere. What do you need right now? I'm listening. I'm gonna ask the question, any questions that are hard. I'm gonna roll up my sleeves when you start to avoid. I'm not gonna retreat myself. I'm not gonna chase you. I'm not going to bombard you, but I'm going to let you know how much I love you. I'm going to lean in with love. I'm going to tell you what my intentions are. And we are going to get on the same page somehow and find a way forward. That's really the key. So comfort, don't calm. That's its own thing to have. And with codependency, because it's from fear, and again, all conflict avoidance is a form of codependency. Codependency is from fear. It's from fear that I'm not worthy and that you're going to find out. It's from fear of feelings. They're all bad. And if I have them, then something's wrong with me. It's sometimes even from knowing that you have a feeling and feeling guilty that you have it. You're not supposed to feel that way. You're not supposed to think this way or have a thought that it's a certain way. It's fear of other people rejecting and abandoning us is really what it is at the very end, at the very bottom. Unless I show my worth by doing for you, by protecting you, by whatever it is that I think shows my worth. Okay. Like I have to prove myself and be worthy of your love by doing. And so it's all fear based. So when we can, yes, sorry. And Shannon says fear that that the person that you'll scare them away, right? That again, so I'm going to be abandoned by you. I'm going to be rejected by you in some way. This is what is so scary to us. So when someone is avoiding you, when they're shutting you out in some way or if they're just shutting down, they're letting you know how afraid they are and that they don't know what to do. They don't know what the answer is, so they're saying there is no answer, right? And so I'm just going to shut it down. It's like, again, it's a form of denial. But when you show them that, hey, we're a team, there's lots of answers to things. And there are, by the way, there are tons of answers to the questions we have when it comes to our relationships. There are always, there really are. Whenever you're in any kind of conversation with your partner or anyone else, and you think there's only two options at the other side, you're thinking from your fear brain every time. If it's like, oh, uh, I want to go to this party and my partner doesn't want to because they don't like social things. Okay. So we either go to the party or we don't. That's not true. There's a million other things in there. So you could have your own party. You could go to a movie instead of going to the party or staying home. You could stay home and do it via Zoom. You could go separately. You could, I mean, there's a million things that you could do besides one of the options, right? If you just talk about it, if you just problem solve, if you just think about it in a different way. And yeah, you got to create that triangle that I talk about all the time. All the time I talk about this. How you don't just, think on a straight line, you think in a triangle and you're looking with your partner towards another solution. Codependents feel like their job is to come up with the solution. Their job is to figure out what the problem is. Their job is then to fix it. And when they can't fix it, that's usually when they avoid or shut down. That's usually when you see that because they feel ashamed and they're again worried of the abandonment. So our job again is to come in and let them know that we're here with them, that we love them no matter what. That we don't expect them to save the day. By the way, they're still going to think it. It's not like you can say that to them and they'll be like, okay, never mind. I don't have to worry about this. Of course, they're still going to worry about it. But your job is to not get pulled into that part of the conversation. Your job is to be with them and stay and hang in. That is your job. I think I answered this question pretty good. I would also say to have a lot of consistency with how you react to your partner if they are codependent and they are avoiding and they are shutting down. Don't allow it to be the thing that separates you, because what happens for us when our partners shut down or withdraw or avoid? We immediately start assigning meaning to it. They don't love me. They're not listening. They're avoiding me. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling rejected. They're not letting me in. We assign a lot of meaning to that, which makes us feel disconnected, depressed, anxious, sad, all the things. And that two disconnected people, two people from fear, is not going to get us where we want to go. So if you can work hard at not being worried, like Shannon says, like, what did I do wrong? What can I do different? That's you being codependent now. Other people's reactions are 100% about them, not you. And you know this because you have crafted the perfect thing to say to someone when you're upset with them, maybe even at work or your mom or whoever, or your partner. And you've been like, okay, they're upset about this thing. I know I'm going to do all the things Abby said, and I'm going to get all ready, and I'm going to say all the right things. And you do, and they still have a response that is not one you wanted. It's because it's them. It is them. The deal is that it becomes you when you allow that reaction to take you off your goal. So when you get codependent and think, oh, they reacted bad, so now maybe you're mad now. I've been trying all these different ways and you won't listen, or you get impatient, or you start to withdraw. When you feel them withdrawing, this is when it's the hardest, and this is when it's the most important to lean in with love, to remind yourself of the partnership, it's not just reminding them, it's reminding you, we're a team and we're going to get through this. I understand that you don't want to talk about this, and that's, I guess, too bad, because I love you and we've got to problem solve. If this isn't a good time, how about we go get something to eat? Let's go for a walk, and why don't we talk about it after, when we both feel a little space. Assign a time to it. Come back to it. Don't allow the avoidance and the shutting down to be the way that they get to stop having the conversation, because it doesn't stop the pain. It just stops the conversation. And so to me, it's like if you I don't know, have a pain in your stomach, and you just decide, to ignore it, and don't tell anybody about it, the pain in your stomach is still there. You just other people don't necessarily know. They might see you wince. They might see you say, oh, I don't want nothing for dinner for me, thanks. And so they might know you're lying, but there's nothing happening here. It doesn't the pain fairy doesn't come and take away our problems because we don't talk about them. So I need you to step in. I need, again, with love, not from a rejected place, not from an abandoned place, not from an impatient place. If you're feeling any of that, then you need to regroup and come back. That's on you. Get yourself in the right mode to give and to receive. And the only way to be there is to be coming from one of the love-based emotions, from compassion, from kindness, from patience, from thoughtfulness, from openness, from willingness. That's the things. As soon as you start to feel resentment and abandonment and rejection and angry and helpless and hopeless, you can see, right, that you're not going to have a productive conversation from that. So you need to back up and get yourself in a good place. You got to remind yourself, my partner loves me. I have so much. They're doing the best with the tools they have, and their tools kind of suck. You know what? I love them so much. We're going to figure this out together, and I'm going to be the leader in this until we do. So I'm going to get back in there, and we're going to have this conversation, and I'm going to remind them how much I love them and that there is a way out. I'm going to hold the hope while my partner doesn't have it. The person who wrote this question in, her husband doesn't have hope, and that's why he's avoiding. That's why he goes to his old codependent behavior. It's why he's shutting down. Our job sometimes is to hold that hope so that and have it out there for when they're ready to receive. Okay. So I think I answered that pretty well. If anyone has another question before we sign off today, please put it in the chat. I'm happy to answer any question. Also, if you have a question you want answered on Addicted to Hope is right. And I have little t-shirts with that and other things on the website now that I'm sure Shannon knows that because I'm addicted to hope. If you have a question that you want answered on a future broadcast, and if you want your name or don't want your name listed, you can let me know when you email me. But you can email me at abby@abbymedcalf.com. You can DM me on Instagram. There's a bunch of ways to find me. You can go to my website, to the Let's Connect page, and there's a little form there. Any way that you want a question answered that I can answer on a future episode, I'm really happy to do. And again, just let me know if you want to be anonymous or not. And I will default to anonymity unless you say, oh, please use my name. Otherwise, I'm going to default to that. But if there's anything else that you want information on, let's do this thing. Please let other people know we're doing the YouTube lives. Next week, I'm going to do YouTube live at noon Pacific, not 1, because I have to take my son to a doctor's appointment. And that'll be my 4th one. And then I think I'm going to keep doing them. I'm enjoying the intimate space very, very, very much. And I'm enjoying this other way of doing things. So, yeah, I'm in, I think, but I'm going to come next week and really make a decision and go from there, and then make it maybe a permanent, more or less permanent time that we have every week. But next week will be noon. And in the meantime, listen to the Relationships Made Easy podcast, where you can find anywhere you download podcasts. And if you haven't yet, I have a weekly love letter that goes out. You can go to my website, abbymedcalf.com. And there's a tab at the top that says love letter. And that's what it is. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not trying to get you to sign up for something. It is literally an inspirational letter that goes out every week. I call them noshes of wisdom. And it's little nosh. That's Yiddish for like a little bite of something. It's just a short little story to help you stay motivated for the week. That is my intention, is to create world peace, one relationship at a time. And that's one of the ways I do it, in addition to the podcast and being here with you now. That's it for this week. Special request for tips on dealing with grief. Okay. There we go. We're going to do some grief coming up. How do you like that? Any other tips you have, any other things, I'm writing that down, that you want to hear about, I'm down and would love to talk about. All right. I love you so much. Have an amazing week. And just remember to love yourself. Yeah. Make sure that you're being kind to yourself and as much as you are to the people around you. All right. Have a great week. I'll see you soon.